this video is about. The single mom drove into the rain, and the billionaire offered his jacket. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you are watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. Jessica Monroe gripped the steering wheel of her modest Subaru, the tires hissing against the slick asphalt as sheets of rain cascaded from the heavens. It was a late Friday afternoon, and the clouds had thickened ominously, transforming the sky into a swirling mass of dark gray. She sighed, her breath fogging the windshield momentarily before the wipers swept away the mist, revealing the indistinct glow of brake lights ahead. Just another day in the life of a single mother, she thought, navigating between work, her daughter's needs, and the chaos of life. Her 5-year-old daughter, Ella, sat in the back seat, engrossed in a colorful storybook she had picked out at the library earlier that week. Jessica glanced in the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of Ella's small fingers tracing the illustrations, her lips moving silently as she attempted to read the words. Jessica's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and longing. She wished she could give her daughter the world, but right now, all she could offer was a steady home and love. As they approached the intersection of Main Street, a flash of headlights caught her attention. Jessica instinctively looked up, and her heart dropped. A large black SUV bore down on them, its driver seemingly oblivious to the red light ahead. Time slowed as she braced for impact, her instincts flaring. With a quick flick of her wrist, she turned the wheel, narrowly avoiding a collision as the SUV sped past, splashing water against her car. "Mommy," Ella squeaked from the back seat, her voice a mixture of surprise and concern. "What happened? Are we okay?" Jessica took a deep breath, her palms still clammy on the wheel. "We're fine, sweetheart. Just a little unexpected excitement, that's all." She forced a smile, wanting to reassure her daughter but feeling the tremors of adrenaline coursing through her veins. As they drove on, the rain began to lighten, transforming from a torrential downpour to a soft drizzle. Jessica felt the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. Ella's laughter bubbled up, her little voice filling the car with warmth. "Can we go to the park when we get home? I want to swing so high I can touch the clouds." Jessica chuckled, the image brightening her mood. "All right, but only if the rain holds off. We can make some hot cocoa first to warm up, okay?" "Yay," Ella squealed, her delight infectious. By the time they reached their small apartment complex, the rain had reduced to a gentle patter. Jessica parked the car and turned off the engine, but just as they were about to step outside, the skies darkened once more, and thunder rumbled ominously overhead. "Mommy," Ella squeaked again, her big brown eyes wide with uncertainty. "It's all right, sweet pea," Jessica said, reaching back to squeeze her daughter's hand. "We'll just run really fast, okay?" With renewed determination, they opened the doors and dashed through the rain, laughter mingling with the sound of falling droplets. Jessica felt the chill of the water seeping through her thin sweater, but she couldn't help but smile as she watched Ella's glee, the way her little legs pumped in rhythm with her hurried giggles. Once inside, they shed their wet clothes and wrapped themselves in soft towels. Jessica glanced at the clock on the wall. The time was spinning away, and soon it would be evening. She poured 2 steaming mugs of cocoa, topped with marshmallows, and joined Ella on the couch, their favorite blanket pulled over them, cocooning them in warmth. "So tell me about your book," Jessica encouraged, setting her mug down and leaning in to listen. Ella's face lit up, and she launched into a story about a brave princess and her dragon friend, weaving an elaborate tale that made Jessica chuckle with delight. The sound of her daughter's imagination reminded her of the simple joys in life, the moments that made all the hard work worth it. Just then, a sudden knock on the door caused both of them to jump. Jessica exchanged a concerned glance with Ella. "I'll check it out. Stay right here," she instructed, rising from the couch and padding to the door. When she opened it, she was greeted by the unexpected sight of a tall man standing in the rain, a drenched, dark-haired stranger with striking blue eyes that seemed to pierce through the storm. He wore an expensive-looking suit, now completely soaked through. Hi," he began, his voice deep and smooth, even with the rain drumming against the building. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I was just passing by," and he paused, looking down at his drenched clothes with a sheepish smile. "I could really use a towel." Jessica blinked, momentarily taken aback. He looked out of place, like a prince who had stumbled into a realm far from his own. "You're completely soaked," she managed, glancing back at Ella, who was peeking around her. "What happened?" He chuckled softly, shaking his head as if to clear it. "I was just out for a run and didn't realize the weather would turn like this. I thought I could make it back before the storm, but—" His voice trailed off as he gestured helplessly at his sodden attire. Jessica hesitated, caught between concern and caution. "Do you live around here?" "Just down the street," he replied, pointing vaguely. Well, it's complicated. I'm visiting family." "Visiting family in the rain." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "That sounds interesting." He chuckled again, a warm sound that softened the chilly air. "You could say that. I'm not usually one to be caught in the rain." She studied him closely, taking in the sharp angles of his jaw, the way his wet hair clung to his forehead. There was something magnetic about him, a confidence that drew her in, but she pushed the thought aside. Let me get you a towel," she said finally, still unsure. "Thanks, I really appreciate it," he said, his eyes glinting with gratitude. As she turned to retrieve a towel, Jessica felt a mix of emotions swirling inside her. There was an undeniable pull toward this stranger, but she reminded herself of the reality of life as a single mother. Her focus had to be on Ella, on stability, on the future she was trying to build. When she returned, she handed him a fluffy towel, watching as he dried his hair with a bemused grin. "I'm Marcus, by the way," he said, extending a hand. "Jessica," she replied, shaking his hand briefly. His grip was firm yet gentle, sending a jolt of awareness through her. "I hope you don't mind a little cocoa while we wait for the rain to ease up." "Cocoa sounds perfect," Marcus said, his eyes lighting up at the suggestion. "I might not have expected this kind of hospitality when I knocked on your door." As they settled into the living room, Jessica couldn't help but notice how Marcus's presence filled the space. The tension in the air shifted, and she felt a warmth spreading through her chest, an unbidden curiosity fluttering at the edges of her mind. Ella, unaware of the undercurrents swirling between her mother and the stranger, hopped onto the couch, her eyes wide with excitement. "Mommy, can he stay for hot cocoa?" Jessica caught Marcus's gaze, a silent question hanging in the air. Would it be wise to invite him into their little world, if only for a moment? His smile was genuine, an easy warmth that made her heart skip. "I'd be honored to share a cup with you both," he said, his tone light and engaging. With a small nod, she surrendered to the moment. "All right, let's have some cocoa then." As the three of them settled in, the rain pattered against the windows, a rhythmic backdrop to their laughter and conversation. Jessica felt a sense of ease wash over her, the weight of the world momentarily lifted. Perhaps it wasn't such a bad thing to let someone in, even just for a brief while. Little did she know, this rain-soaked encounter would lead to a storm of emotions and decisions she had never anticipated, altering the course of her life in ways she could never have foreseen. The rain continued to drum softly against the window as the three of them settled around their small living room table, steam curling from their mugs of cocoa. The soft glow of the lamp in the corner cast a warm hue over the room, flickering gently like a heartbeat, a contrast to the storm outside. Jessica found herself caught in the magnetic pull of Marcus's presence, an unusual sensation that both exhilarated and terrified her. "So, Ella," Marcus began, leaning forward with genuine interest, "what's your favorite storybook right now?" Ella beamed, her eyes lighting up as she turned to face him, her hands instinctively clutching her mug like a prized possession. "It's about a princess who saves her dragon friend from a mean wizard." She practically vibrated with excitement, her little voice rising in pitch. "And then they fly over the clouds together." "Wow, that sounds amazing," Marcus replied, his tone rich with enthusiasm. "Do you think I could fly with you and the princess? I'd make a great knight, I bet." Ella giggled, her laughter filling the room with light, and Jessica couldn't help but smile at the effortless connection forming between them. It was a sweet moment, yet she felt a twinge of protectiveness rise within her. "Just remember, Marcus," she interjected gently, "knights need to be brave and smart." "Ah, well, I'm definitely brave," he replied, flashing her a playful grin. "And I've been known to be smart on occasion. Just ask my family." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Family, so you do have some sort of grounding." "Sort of," he said with a hint of hesitation. "Let's say it's complicated, but I'm here for a while, so maybe I can help you both with your adventures." "Adventures," Ella echoed wide-eyed, "like going to the park or finding treasure." "Exactly." Marcus leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms with a triumphant look. "But treasure hunting is much more fun in a rainstorm, don't you think?" As the conversation flowed, Jessica felt herself relax, entertained by the playful banter that unfolded between Marcus and Ella. She watched the way Marcus engaged with her daughter, his laughter and enthusiasm genuine, as if he stepped into their little world without hesitation. It stirred something deep within her, a sense of longing for connection, for camaraderie that she had tucked away since her marriage fell apart. But just as quickly as that feeling washed over her, caution set in. Her heart raced as she glanced at Marcus, noting the way his dark hair fell across his forehead, and the way those striking blue eyes held an intensity that was hard to ignore. "You say you're visiting family," she probed, trying to ground herself in reality. "What brings you to this part of the city?" He paused, the lightheartedness that had filled the room momentarily faltering. "It's a family estate. My father, well, it's complicated." Jessica furrowed her brow, sensing the weight behind his words. "Complicated how?" Marcus sighed, looking down into his cocoa, swirling the liquid thoughtfully with a spoon. "Let's just say my family dynamics are turbulent. They have high expectations, and I never quite fit into their mold." Ella was oblivious to the subtle shift in mood, chattering about her drawings and school projects, filling the air with innocent joy. Jessica watched Marcus closely, noting the flicker of vulnerability that crossed his face. Behind the confident exterior lay a man grappling with something deeper, something that resonated with her own struggles as a single mother trying to build a stable life for Ella. "Sometimes families can be difficult," Jessica offered quietly, her voice steady. "I get that. I've had my share of complicated family relationships too." Marcus looked up, surprise mingling with understanding in his gaze. "You're a single mother, right?" Jessica nodded, allowing herself a moment of honesty. "It hasn't been easy. It's a daily challenge to find balance, to make choices that are best for Ella. Some days, I feel like I'm treading water just trying to stay afloat." His expression softened, and for a heartbeat, it felt as though the world around them fell away. "You're doing a remarkable job," he said, sincerity etched in every word. "She's lucky to have you." Jessica felt warmth bloom in her chest, her heart fluttering at his compliment. "Thank you, but it's just what I have to do." Still, it takes courage. Not everyone can handle the weight of parenting alone. His eyes held hers, and Jessica felt a pull, an undeniable connection that sent an electric shiver down her spine. Ella, sensing the shift in atmosphere, chimed in innocently. Can we make a treasure map too? You can help Marcus. Absolutely. Marcus's smile returned, brightening the room. You draw the map, and I'll help with the X marks the spot. We'll find treasure somewhere in this rain. Before long, Ella was on her feet, flitting around the room to gather colored pencils and sheets of paper. Can I use the pink one? She asked, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Of course, pink is essential for treasure maps. Marcus replied, teasingly serious. He turned to Jessica with a conspiratorial grin. Do you think pink treasure will attract a dragon? Jessica laughed, the sound coming from a place deep within her, full of warmth and unexpected ease. Only the bravest knights and their princesses can handle such treasures. As Ella got to work, her tiny hands moving quickly, Jessica found herself leaning against the table, her attention shifting back to Marcus. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, a chemistry that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. She wanted to know more about him, to peel back the layers of this man who had unexpectedly entered their lives on a rainy evening. What about you? She asked softly. What do you do when you're not running in the rain? Marcus leaned back, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. I'm in real estate, mostly commercial development. I enjoy it, but, he paused, searching for the right words, it's not exactly my passion. I suppose I'm still trying to find where I fit in. Jessica could sense the hesitation in his voice, the yearning for something more. What's your passion? She pressed gently, curious to explore the depths of his ambitions. His gaze turned serious, and for a moment she saw the flicker of a dream in his eyes. I've always wanted to travel, to explore new cultures and experiences, but with work and family obligations, it hasn't happened yet. Maybe you should, she said, feeling emboldened. Life is too short to be confined by expectations. His eyes danced with appreciation, and Jessica felt a warmth spread through her. You're absolutely right, he replied, a hint of admiration in his tone. Maybe one day I'll take a leap and do just that. Ella's laughter interrupted their conversation as she proudly displayed her colorful treasure map, filled with swirls of pink, blue, and yellow. Look, I made paths and everything. Can we go treasure hunting tomorrow? Jessica couldn't help but smile at Ella's excitement, her heart swelling with joy. If the rain lets up, we will definitely go on a treasure hunt. Count me in, Marcus declared, his enthusiasm infectious. As the night wore on, the rain outside continued to pour, but inside their little apartment, warmth and laughter reigned. Jessica felt a shift within her, a glimmer of hope, a sense of possibility. This unexpected encounter with Marcus introduced a spark in her heart, one she hadn't dared to acknowledge in a long time. Yet as the evening drew to a close, reality lurked in the shadows. She was a single mother, responsible for the little soul that filled her life with purpose. Marcus was an intriguing stranger with a life of complexity, a world that seemed far removed from hers. But for tonight, Jessica decided to bask in the moment, to embrace the laughter and connection forged over hot cocoa and treasure maps. Because sometimes, in the midst of the storm, unexpected encounters could lead to beautiful beginnings. And as she glanced over at Marcus, she wondered if this rain-soaked night was the start of something new, something that could alter the course of their lives in ways none of them could foresee. As the evening wore on, the rain continued to patter against the windows, a soothing melody that wrapped around Jessica and her unexpected guest like a comforting blanket. The light from the lamp flickered gently, illuminating the playful chaos of colored papers and crayons scattered across their small dining table. Ella's laughter filled the air, a sweet sound that could brighten even the gloomiest of days. Jessica found herself stealing glances at Marcus as he animatedly discussed the finer points of treasure hunting with her daughter. His eyes sparkled with enthusiasm, and the way he engaged with Ella made her heart swell. She admired the kindness and genuine interest he displayed, a stark contrast to the cold, calculated demeanor she had often encountered in her life post-divorce. "Okay, okay," Ella exclaimed, bouncing in her seat, her voice bubbling over with excitement. "So we need to start at the big tree in the park, and then we go right to the slide, and then—" She looked up, her little brow furrowing in concentration. "Then we turn left to the swings." Marcus nodded, his expression serious. "Left it is, and we'll have to be careful of dragons lurking in the bushes, right?" He glanced at Jessica with a wink, and she felt the warmth creeping up her cheeks. "Definitely dragons," Jessica interjected, her voice playful. "Very fierce ones, I hear. Fierce dragons that love pink treasure, Mommy." Ella giggled, her eyes shining with mischief. "Can you be the princess in our adventure, Marcus?" Jessica watched the way Marcus's smile widened at Ella's request, an openness in his demeanor that was refreshing. "I'd be honored," he replied without skipping a beat. "But I'll need a knight to protect me. Maybe you could be my knight, Ella." "I will," Ella declared without hesitation, her tiny chest puffing up with pride. "I'll be the best knight ever." The way they interacted, so effortlessly, made Jessica's heart ache with a bittersweet nostalgia. She longed for the carefree days when she too believed in adventures and knights. Those innocent moments that felt so far away since life had thrust upon her the weight of adult responsibilities. Marcus caught her gaze, his blue eyes searching hers, as if recognizing the fleeting wistfulness that passed over her like a shadow. "You have a wonderful daughter, Jessica," he said, his tone sincere and warm. "You're doing an incredible job raising her." Her heart fluttered at the compliment, and she felt a mix of gratitude and vulnerability. "Thank you, but it's not always easy," she admitted, her voice quieter now. "Some days, I feel like I'm just trying to keep my head above water." "I can imagine," he replied, leaning forward slightly, his interest piqued. "I know how it feels to live in the shadow of expectations. It can be suffocating." Jessica nodded, feeling a connection in their shared understanding. "It's hard to balance what you want for yourself and what others expect of you. I just want to give Ella everything I can, even if it means sacrificing my own dreams." His expression softened, and for a moment the air between them thickened with unspoken truths. "You know, I think it's brave to put someone else's needs before your own," he said gently. "It shows how deeply you care." At that, she felt a rush of emotion swell within her. "It's all I've ever known. After the divorce, things changed so drastically. I had to learn to rebuild, to create a little world for us, and it's been challenging." "I can relate," he replied, his voice steady. "Family can be complicated. I've had my share of pushing through the chaos, trying to be the person everyone expects me to be. But sometimes," he paused, searching for the right words, "sometimes you have to break free. You have to find what truly makes you happy, or you'll drown in everyone else's dreams." Jessica felt the weight of his words resonate within her. There was a depth to Marcus that intrigued her, a yearning for authenticity that mirrored her own aspirations. "How did you find your way?" she asked, genuinely curious. He shrugged, a flicker of vulnerability in his smile. "I'm still searching for that, to be honest. It's a daily battle to prioritize what's important, but moments like this," he gestured around the room, "these little connections, they remind me what life is really about. It's not just about work or family obligations. It's about joy, laughter, and being present." For a heartbeat, time seemed to stand still, and Jessica found herself captivated by the intensity of his gaze. It was as if he saw her, truly saw her, beneath the layers she had built up over the years. "It's refreshing to hear someone say that," she admitted softly. "I sometimes forget how to be present. Life moves so fast and I feel like I have to keep up." Maybe we should all take a moment to pause every now and then, he suggested, his voice low and earnest. Life is too precious to get lost in the noise. Just then, Ella interjected, pulling them back to their playful world. Look, look! She held up her treasure map, proudly displaying her artistic creation. I made a dragon cave here, and this is where the treasure is buried. Jessica and Marcus leaned in, both pretending to be astonished. That's amazing, Ella. We have to make sure we're prepared for any dragons that might guard the treasure, Marcus declared, drawing a mock sword from thin air. Ella squealed with delight, her laughter ringing through the apartment like music. You're so silly, Marcus. As the evening unfolded, Jessica found herself lost in the joyful chaos, allowing the weight of her responsibilities to lift, however momentarily. They transformed the living room into a makeshift treasure map planning ground, mapping out imaginary caves and whimsical dangers. But as the game continued, Jessica felt an undercurrent of tension pooling between her and Marcus. There was a chemistry that flickered in the air, a connection that felt electric yet daunting. She couldn't ignore the way his laughter danced against her skin, or how every shared glance held the promise of something more. As the clock ticked on, Ella began to yawn, her eyelids growing heavy. Can we go treasure hunting tomorrow, Mommy? She mumbled, her voice sleepy. Jessica smiled, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her daughter's ear. Of course, sweetheart, but it's time for bed now. We need to rest up for our big adventure. Ella nodded sleepily, her head bobbing as she struggled to stay awake. Okay, but only if Marcus comes too. Jessica's heart raced at Ella's innocent request. She glanced at Marcus, who met her gaze with an understanding smile. I'd love to join your treasure hunt, he agreed, excitement dancing in his tone. I'll bring my knightly armor, just in case. With that, Jessica rose from her seat, gathering Ella's things as she gently guided her towards the bedroom. All right, let's get you ready for bed, little knight. As Jessica tucked Ella under her blankets, she felt a swell of warmth, pride, and love. Good night, my brave knight, she whispered, planting a soft kiss on her forehead. Good night, Mommy, Ella murmured, her eyes fluttering shut. Once the door closed softly behind her, Jessica returned to the living room, finding Marcus still sitting at the table, a thoughtful expression on his face. You're a great mom, he said quietly, sincerity radiating from his words. Ella is lucky to have you. Her heart swelled at his compliment, but she felt a pang of uncertainty. Thank you, she replied, her voice softer than intended. It's just what I do. I'm not always sure I'm doing it right. You are, just look at this evening. He gestured around the room filled with laughter and joy. You created a magical moment for her, and that's what matters most. She smiled, but his words lingered in her mind, reminding her of the deeper connection they had formed. Now, alone with him, Jessica felt the tension shift, the air thickening with unspoken possibilities. It's been nice having you here, she said, finding her courage. I didn't expect tonight to turn out like this. Me neither, he admitted, running a hand through his damp hair, a nervous habit she noticed he had. But I'm glad it did. There's something special about sharing this moment. Jessica nodded, feeling her heartbeat quicken. I agree. It's rare to connect with someone like this. He stepped a little closer, his blue eyes holding hers, filled with a mixture of warmth and longing. I know we've just met, but I can't help but feel drawn to you. There's a spark here that feels different. Her breath hitched, and she felt the weight of his words settle like a heavy blanket around them. I feel it too, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. But things are complicated. I have to think of Ella first. Of course, he said quickly, a flash of understanding crossing his features. I respect that, but I'd like to get to know you better. I think you deserve happiness, Jessica. His sincerity wrapped around her like a warm embrace, and in that moment she felt a spark of hope igniting deep within her. The fear that had kept her guarded for so long began to soften, replaced by a yearning for connection, a desire for something more than the quiet routine of her life. "I appreciate that, Marcus," she said, her voice steady despite the flutter of her heart. "But I haven't allowed myself to think about happiness in a long time. I've been so focused on making sure Ella is okay that, well, I've kind of neglected my own needs." Marcus stepped closer, the space between them electric, his presence both comforting and exhilarating. "You deserve to feel joy too, Jessica. It's not selfish to want something for yourself." She searched his eyes, feeling as though he could see through the walls she had built, the fears and doubts she had kept hidden. "It's been a while since I've let anyone in," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "After my divorce, I guess I just lost my way." He nodded, a gentle understanding in his gaze. "You're not alone in that. We all have our battles. I've been stuck under the weight of expectations for far too long. Sometimes it takes an unexpected encounter to shake things up and make you see what really matters." A small smile tugged at her lips, the warmth from his words wrapping around her like a soft blanket. "I never expected to meet someone like you tonight. It feels surreal, to be honest. Like the universe conspired to bring us together in this storm." "Maybe it did," he said, a playful glint in his eyes. "I mean, who else would show up at your door in a soaking wet suit looking for a towel?" Jessica laughed, the sound light and airy, momentarily pushing away the weight of her worries. "You're right, it's quite the story to tell. Maybe it's the beginning of a new chapter," he replied softly, his expression shifting to something more serious. "I'd like to be part of that chapter if you'll let me." The air crackled with unspoken possibilities. Jessica felt a rush of warmth flood her cheeks as she considered his words. There was something genuine about him, a raw honesty that called to her. But doubt crept back in, threatening to dampen the flicker of connection they shared. "What would that even look like for us?" she asked, her voice cautious, yet laced with curiosity. "I don't know," Marcus admitted, his gaze steady. "But I'd like to find out. We could take it slow, just see where this chemistry leads. I don't want to pressure you, but I feel a connection, and I think it could be something special." Jessica bit her lip, wrestling with her emotions. "I want to explore this," she said finally, her heart racing. "But I have to consider Ella. She's my priority, and I can't just bring anyone into her life." "Absolutely," he agreed, his tone respectful and understanding. "I wouldn't want to overstep, but I'd like to meet her again to get to know both of you better, if that's okay with you. I can be patient." The sincerity in his voice melted some of her apprehension. "You really mean that?" she asked, searching his expression for any hint of doubt. "I do," he said, stepping ever so slightly closer, their shared space pulsating with unspoken attraction. "I think the two of you are remarkable, and I'd love the opportunity to become part of your lives, even in a small way." Jessica felt the warmth of his words wrapping around her heart, making it swell with a mixture of hope and caution. "Okay," she said softly, feeling the weight of her decision settle around her. "Let's take this one step at a time." "Great," he replied, his face breaking into a broad smile that lit up the room. "I promise to be respectful of your boundaries and Ella's comfort. I just want to add a little light to your lives." "Light, huh?" she teased, a playful grin crossing her lips. "You must think you're quite the knight in shining armor." He chuckled, the sound deep and inviting. "Maybe just a bit tarnished," he admitted, looking down at his soaked suit. "But I'll work on polishing up my armor." Jessica laughed, the sound bubbling forth unexpectedly, and she felt the walls she had so carefully constructed begin to crumble. "I think you'll need to get a new suit for that." "Perhaps," he replied, a playful glint in his eyes. "Or I could just start wearing t-shirts and jeans. Much more practical in a storm, don't you think?" Definitely, she replied, her heart fluttering at the ease of their banter. But t-shirts might not be suitable for treasure hunting. You'll need to dress the part. Then I'll make sure to arrive in full knightly regalia, complete with armor and a sword, he promised, his eyes twinkling with mischief. The lightness of their exchange felt like a balm to her heart, a welcome distraction from the weight of life's complexities. You do realize that dragons are not easily defeated, right? I've faced my fair share of dragons, he said, a hint of seriousness in his tone. But if I could slay a few for you and Ella, I would. The intensity of his words sent a shiver down her spine, an overwhelming rush of emotion that left her breathless. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate your willingness to be part of our lives, and I'd love to see where this goes. Just as the moment hung between them, electric and ripe with potential, Ella's sleepy voice cut through the atmosphere. Mommy. Jessica turned, smiling as she saw her daughter standing at the bedroom door, rubbing her eyes. Yes, sweetheart. Can we have pancakes for breakfast? Ella's little face was still drowsy, but her eyes sparkled with hope. Of course we can, Jessica replied, kneeling down to her level and brushing a few strands of hair from her face. But we have to make sure our brave knight, Marcus, gets some too. Ella's eyes widened and a grin broke across her face. Really, he's coming back. If he wants to, Jessica said, glancing back at Marcus, who was watching the exchange with a warm smile. I'd love to join you both for breakfast and pancakes. Sounds like the perfect way to start a treasure hunting day, Marcus replied, a hint of excitement in his tone. Ella giggled, her exhaustion forgotten. Yay, we can make them together. Absolutely, Jessica said, her heart swelling at the sight of her daughter's joy. But first, we need to get you back to bed, young lady. Okay, Ella replied, bouncing back to her room as Jessica followed her, glancing back at Marcus with a mixture of affection and trepidation. As Ella climbed back into her bed, Jessica tucked the covers around her snugly. Good night, my little knight, she whispered, planting a soft kiss on her forehead. Good night, Mommy, Ella murmured, already drifting off to sleep. Jessica stepped back into the living room where Marcus was waiting, a soft smile gracing his lips. You're a wonderful mother, he said quietly, his voice low and sincere. Thank you, she replied, feeling warmth flood her cheeks again. But you make it easy to forget about the heaviness. You have a way of bringing joy to the room. I'm glad, he said, stepping a bit closer again, the space between them tinged with a lingering tension. I really enjoy spending time with you both. It feels right. Jessica felt a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her, a mix of excitement and unease. It does. I just have to be careful, you know. I'm still figuring things out. I understand, he reassured her, his expression steady and patient. All I ask for is a chance to show you I'm worth it, to be a part of your lives even in the smallest ways. She nodded, searching his gaze for sincerity, which she found in abundance. Okay, let's take it slow and see where this adventure leads us. Maybe it'll be the start of something beautiful. Beautiful, he echoed, his gaze lingering on her with a warmth that made her pulse quicken. I look forward to every moment of it. With that, a promise hung in the air, a vow to explore the uncharted territory of their connection. Tonight had opened a door she hadn't realized was closed, and though caution remained, hope breathed life into her heart. In this rain-soaked encounter, amidst the laughter and warmth, lay the possibility of rekindling joy, an adventure neither of them had expected but both were willing to embrace.